India that we're covering, as well as the type of students from which locations. Um, Today's topic is AI and automation, and let me just quickly give you some numbers. And we know that AI automation is rapidly expanding. It's deeply influencing the economy, job market, and for students for whom this panel discussion is gaining proficiency in AI and automation technologies is critical to unlock your future careers, and that's what we're talking about: is where will you land up in your career opportunities. Let's look at the market if we'd like to really quickly look at it, right? The global AI market is actually targeted to be 391 billion, and it's projected to grow nearly 5 times by 2030 with a CAGR of 35.9. That means by 2030, most of you students who are in the final will be in the job market. So it's important to hear what's happening in the job market. So my question to you, Venkat, is automation technologies.
Sure. Thrilled to panel addressing the students. So please let questions keep coming. To address the point that you made, Lata, when you look at the evolution of how IT has come along over the last few generations, there has been quite a lot of shift in the way first of all software has been developed, and then on top of it, how do we bring in automation, whether it is process related automation, whether it is automation beyond just processes, right? On how to bring in the productivity. A lot of companies are hung on, when I say companies, I'm also talking about businesses which are hung on bringing in productivity, and automation is just one of the levers for it. And today we are, in fact, there is AI and the evolution of AI, which I'll also be talking about a little bit, that automation now no longer needs to be built, right? So AI can generate automators on the fly as well, right? But at the same time, from an automation standpoint, it started with like basic test automation within the software development lifecycle, right? And then there could be some kinds of automating the builds that you, after you write the code, you would automate builds, which would be promoted to the higher environments, and then eventually to production. So that's the software development lifecycle part of automation. Then when it comes to the actual production and business automation, we had things like robotic process automation, where a lot of things would actually be recorded and rerun, so that these automators can go validate if everything is working fine. And though they would just, I would say, scratch the surface from an automation standpoint. Eventually, it came down to script-based, configuration-based. You had runbook-based automation. That there were many other things that came in, and within the production environment as well. As and when more and more automators took over and human interventions came down, it eventually came down to a point where we started thinking, are they, how secure are they?
telecom is one of them. And the biggest thing is that for AI utilization, the data is the basic requirement. We already huge data, which include customer database. That's not AT&T. If we see that fully, you know, 2/3 of the some point in time, roughly runs out. And because of that reason, when the data is flowing, it means that telecom company has a visibility, the amount of data flowing, the data which is flowing, and sort of important for telecom companies to basically capitalize using the AI technology. It's not more for telecom companies that we were waiting for AI to come in, and then we started putting models on that. There has been matured models created in the past, which we are evolving. One of the biggest challenge for us is that how very big, huge challenge migrate from the transformation perspective. But that is something which is helping us. I will focus on the positive aspect because Lata asked about what are the benefits we are bringing to the customer experience. For the customer experience is some aspect which is external from telecom company perspective, right? So when we are focusing to the customers, we basically divide into two categories: the retail customers and the enterprise customers. Both have different needs. When I'm saying retail, means like I have a mobile phone, I have a broadband connectivity. I'm taking some packages for home or SOHO, a location, etc. Enterprises, which are the large companies who are basically it could be any vertical, etc. They are using the bandwidths and utilizing it. Those are basically the enterprise clients for us. So from the both perspective, the requirements are very different. When I say that retail aspect, the AI, by analyzing the customer behavior, we are able to create multiple different models, which helps us serving the customers better. So when customer contacts us, he will be able to realize that he is already well known and we know everything about the customer, and we can give the right recommendations before he actually sort of, it's very, very quickly. Rather, he explaining everything, authenticating, providing a lot of data to the basically the call center, etc. And one simple example is, which many of you would have experienced in India as well, that AI-powered chatbots are something which is becoming very, very popular now. Has been from, I would say, a couple of years, already in the market. And if we see that these are something which are very well powered by the NLP as well, so wherein you can talk to them, you can text them, chat them. There are multi different channels which you can interact with them and get the task which you want to basically accomplish, right? And internally, the way that these AI helps is that we know that customer behavior. Let's say that if a customer is using a lot of Netflix, we can give him the right package for which works out well for the weekend. Data consumption is higher than the usual days because usual days he may be working out, going to office, etc. Weekends will be heavy for the Netflix data, etc. Somebody who is using WhatsApp, not using the Netflix, the package will be different, and there will be different recommendations for them, right? So the variation, aspect comes. The second part which comes is with respect to the enterprise customers, they are more focused on the business and they want the business outcome focused approach. That's where they need a lot of visibility. They need, security is very, very critical for them. So the cybersecurity aspect, which is in itself is a huge one. If you ask me to talk about it, I mean, I'm just thinking that how do I cover it in a short span of time? Because being, having a lot of visibility about the data, the cybersecurity in itself can be provided in a much better manner for enterprise customers. That's what we are actually doing it. Before the event or incident happens, we can protect customer from those incidents, looking at the customer flow behavior in the backend. And that is something which is very, very prominent. Only telecom companies can help enterprise customers. So there are a lot of models and algorithms which are basically working towards that to create solutions and products for enterprise customer, as well as the self-service and something which they can look at, which they can get is another one term is the self-healing networks, wherein networks themselves are very, very capable to sort of, correct any link failures, any errors, and also predict that what might happen if something happened in the recent time, and very, very quickly move to a different policy decision from the traffic management perspective. The traffic and engineering is entirely AI powered now. And for example, if I say in the network, in the backbone, the traffic movement happens from one link to another link in sort of, 10 milliseconds to 40, milliseconds, 50 milliseconds approximately, but it's not noticed by customers. Even if he's like us, we are doing the real-time communication right now. It's not something which is visible to customer. So there are a lot of customer experience related aspect, which is basically helping us. At the end, I would just say I don't know how much time I was having, Lata, but just want to leave the one thought that a lot of things to be done by AI in telecom companies, but basically the key thing is that using the AI, we are trying to make whatever data we have, what intelligence we can create by utilizing AI and make the smart networks and create the better experience for the customers and our consumers. That is basically what is the objective which we are trying to drive.
So Sujit, I think both you and Venkat, when you've been talking, there's some questions that come in. So I will deviate a few from the other questions, but because you talked about security and that's an important aspect across, right? All of us are aware of cybersecurity and the threats that we have. There's one question that's come in here around, does sharing information to chatbots lead to privacy breaches?
Well, so that's something which is a sensitive one, and yes, it does if you're sharing a private information. So the way the chatbots basically are built is there are certain compliances while telecom companies. I'm just talking about the telecom companies' perspective, how we are utilizing chatbots. So there are regulations which are in place to secure the customer privacy information. For example, your phone numbers, your the amount which you are paying, when did you pay the amount, what exact amount, or your personal information, including your date of birth and other things. So these all informations, while being required by chatbot or anything, these are following a specific regulation. In the back end, these are all captured and these are auditable. So if you are not on a wrong chatbot, you are the genuine chatbot of the company, you don't have any issues. But the problem is that if somebody spoofs you to a chatbot which is created for hacking the information, you have to be really careful.
Yeah, and I think that's the piece of how much information do you share and over what network. And two is in corporate world, as most of the students join the corporate world, it's important to look at what are the approved methods of communication versus the modes that may not be approved by any organization. And I think I've got one more question, and I do want to take it because the students have sent it. And by the way, we're seeing students from Bodh Gaya, Sikkim, Meghalaya here. If Venkat and Sujit, you have time to go through the student base, but a quick question is, historically, AI workloads have relied on GPUs for training and inference. So why do we still primarily develop AI software and components on CPUs? Wouldn't moving more development towards GPU programming allow us to work directly with the hardware's capability and achieve greater efficiency?
Would you want to pick that up right now, Lata? Do you want to?
I'm just saying, if you want to pick it up right now, or I can paste it in our chat so that you can read it more.
Yeah, we
And
could
I'll
pick
paste
that
it
up.
in the Q&A. I'll paste it in the
Sure.
Q&A.
Because I wanted to
Um,
step in and get your perspective on
thanks.
AI and automation in the HR space, right? Because we've got a global view from Venkat and some views there, and Sukhjit from the telecom enterprise customer perspective. Maybe you can bring in, because HR processes impact all of us once we're in an organization. So some of your experiences, Lata, there.
Yeah, I think in most organizations, at least the one I've worked in, which is IBM, and most of the IT companies, the HR automation is the part that we've leveraged maximum, right? So every company is actually looking at streamlining HR automation because it has a large impact on the employee base. And I guess you start at home first. And that's what at IBM we call client zero. Since I'm no longer at IBM, I will say used to, but it does still. But it's as simple as when you look at all of you as students, you're looking at your resumes being sent. It's screening the resumes to interviewing and scheduling and also communicating. That means the process of hiring is faster and more efficient. So that's a basic streamlining of recruitment that happens. Then there's the onboarding, offboarding, and I can say I will say onboarding is very, very easy now. And I've spoken to a number of people who have joined companies post the deployment of automation and AI in the HR processes. I can definitely say offboarding is equally easy now because I just offboarded. And as I offboarded, I think the process of documentation to the chatbot actually giving you information to what is due to you to doing it very smoothly is amazing. So that's the automated workflow that allows not just new employees, but employees that are moving out of the organization or leaving for any reason. It's really good. Two is the training as well, right? Because you're looking at training, personalized training that's coming in for students, for you, but for employees as well. And then there's a lot of self-service portal, and Venkat and Sukhjit will both agree to it, is the fact that you have a lot of queries that we used to have long back, where we would be calling the finance guys or looking for documentation as employee certificate or something else. All of it is now automated. It is also confidential, right? Because there are so many employees, you don't want data from one employee going to the other. The other part that I have found very useful is the insights we used to get as managers on when we are looking at even benefits or looking at increments being given. How are we allocating the money that we have been given as a kitty to allocate as increments based on the performance of the employee to what have they been given in the last 2-3 years, so that you have the historical data coming in, but you also have data as to how to allocate it. So I think overall, the process in HR has been done very smoothly in the AI and automation side, which is from both an employee perspective, and what's the most important about AI automation is how do you make it easy for anyone to really interact. And I think that's something that's happened smoothly, whether it is from onboarding to offboarding. Your CV, I mentioned that, but also looking at some of the things as simple as a Form 16, and Venkat and Sukhjit will understand that, right? In the old past dinosaur days of ours, when we need a Form 16, which for most of the students is for income tax filing you'd be calling the finance guys and asking for it. But it's no longer required. You just say my Form 16. Anyway, it comes automatically. But as someone like me who would not look at email, it's so easy to say, I want my Form 16. And the bot will just ask you is, do you want it for this year? You'll say yes. It'll say, should I mail it to you, or do you want to download it from your work? It looks so simple, but at the back end is the entire process of automation in AI that has been used in the entire workflow. And I would say that is one of the things that in the HR space affects not just the HR employees who are engaging with other employees as well as an onboarding, but employees as customers, right? How are we benefiting from the customer service that the HR team is doing?
So I think before Lata jumps into the next section, So for the benefit of everybody here, we're very clearly seeing AI and automation is making life simpler, more convenient, more visible, faster. So everything looks super great. So why is everybody worried? Lata, over to you to bring in the speakers in the next round.
Why is everybody anything that new comes in is worrisome, but until you get used to it. But let me ask a quick question because of the changes. Venkat, you've done your education both in US and have worked at multiple global stints, right? Give us a view of your career trajectory and how have you benefited? Also, is advise students to pursue a global education. The reason I'm not responding to what you said, Madhu, is because as Venkat and Sukhjit talk about their career journey, I think it's going to make an a simpler answer for students to understand why you should not be afraid of AI or any new technology.
Lata, yeah. So, my career trajectory, I did my engineering in India, in Bangalore, and I'm a Bangalorean, by the way. And I did my master's, couple of masters actually, one computer science core, and then the other one was engineering and operations management. And that was in the US, and then moved back. I worked there. I was in the telco industry, by the way, at Motorola, and then moved back here 10 years ago. And that's when I started my journey at IBM. So I've been mentoring quite a lot of, next genies, right? Students and everybody else. And most of them that I mentor come to me and say, you know what, I took it easy in my 10th and 12th days. Probably also took it easy during my engineering days. I don't have, a score that would let me even be part of some of the campus recruitments, right? Because there are some cutoffs, I believe, in the campuses, right? And we did talk to some of the recruitment leaders as well from around the campuses. And some of them think that they may not get into good universities because of that. So and I would actually, you know tell the students here not to take that as something that is going to pull you down or stall your journey towards becoming one of the best in this industry, or whichever industry you pick, right? And as we go along, it's becoming easier for us to pick up a stream and excel in that. And you don't need to, be, like I said earlier, we have all these technologies bringing us closer to the industry. So it doesn't matter. I know we have students here who are probably not just computer science or data science, right? They're students from across different streams of academic oriented subjects and things like that. But whatever you're doing, AI can definitely be part of that journey, which is one. Second thing is, I would, at least I personally, right? And I walk the talk because, when I send a hiring team wherever they go, I, make sure I tell them that marks should not be the primary focus when you're hiring people. So, I would suggest students to, pick up more research based, curriculum, right? As you move forward, especially during your bachelor days, undergrad and graduation, right? Your master's, or you want to go on to do a doctoral PhDs and things like that. Make it become more research oriented, and doesn't matter where you do it. You do it in India, abroad. To your question, Lata, I would definitely suggest, so that we get more exposed to different cultures, because learning is not just about a subject, right? It's also about knowing people, knowing cultures, knowing how they work. So I was always into research, right? If you look up my LinkedIn, it's always been research based, my masters and everything else. So I've worked with students and researchers around the world, so understanding their ways of working, their ways of thinking, right? And they learn from us, right? While we Indians are considered to be very hardworking, there are many other, right? There are a lot of times we may not be always true to what we do. you would pick that up from a lot more others, right? When you do this with other cultures as well. So I would definitely suggest, right? And again, I don't have a preference for a country or anything. I would really suggest two things. One, yes, if you get a chance, try to see if you can, get some exposure to a country or a culture that's not origin to you. Second is, make sure it's all research based, right? I'm sure as you go along, there'll be more and more organizations that will tend to hire you based on what you know, what you've done, not what's on your mark sheet, right? I'm again, some of the professors and lecturers and everybody who is on this panel may hate me for saying this, but I'm not saying that marks are not important. But what I'm saying is marks are not the most important thing. That's not something that will define you, right? So I will pause there, Lata. I hope I've put
You
my-
have. And I think though we don't have a third panelist, it's giving both of you a lot of time to talk. So I don't know whether we have to thank Amrita or, but Sukhjit, from your perspective, right? And I think Venkat brought in a good part, maybe Madhu, we should put it as well later on, is what are the skills outside technical that you need when you're looking in the work environment that students should actually bring in from right now? But Sukhjit, give us a bit about your journey as well as what skills did you pick up? How did you focus on what you wanted to do? And what are the new skills the students should be picking up? And we'll try to keep it briefer answers now so that we can have more questions coming in. There are a lot of questions that the students are asking.
Yeah, Lata, thanks. That's a great question. And by the way, the time when I started, it was very simple because there was no internet, there was no mobile phone. So focus, which you asked, was very clear. So that was simple. But anyways, so what I would say is that, see, over a period, what has changed is in the past years, knowing that we had the limited exposure and because of the, not having the sort of internet connectivity or limited connectivity till even 2000s later on. I remember I used to set up the lot of ISPs themselves in India when I was part of IBM. So I remember I'm in that time in the boom, almost more than 50 ISPs. I sort of, run the project myself and I did, my setup from my own hands. So that was a time when I sort of, realized that this market is really picking up and internet was expensive over a period, then it got cheaper, right? But the thing was that earlier, if I talk about let's say 1.5 decade back, that point in time, the focus and going into depth into a specific area was a very, very important aspect. So if you are specializing, then you are sort of making a difference in the industry. You are valued. You will be getting something to grow, which you are looking at from your career perspective. Now, what happens is that is something which is being challenged over a period, and which is for good, by the way. Let me tell you very clearly. The reason is because specialization always remains an important part. Even now, it is important. But along with that, a lot of things which are opening up opportunity for everyone. That is really playing out very, very fast. So for just taking my example, since you wanted my view. So I did CCI, which was, and I was 14th person to do CCI as an Indian resident in 2001, I think, if I remember correctly. And in IBM, I was the first one. So that was something which was in itself was a huge achievement. And it used to be treated like a PhD in networking globally. So that kind of certification, it used to be no more having that value now. Maybe, yes, it might have, but it has changed over a period, right? So that specialization helped at that point in time, but it required quite a lot of depth because it required 2 days of full lab exam, and which was a limited one wherein you have to do sort of some kind of setup which you would be doing in industry, taking maybe a few months. So that was something which was expected in 16 hours to be done very, very quickly. Yeah.
Can I just step in to say maybe, and what I hear from you earlier and Venkat is when we talked about research is get your hands dirty on any technology becomes core. It doesn't matter which technology you're picking up for the future, but getting your hands dirty in terms of really practicing on it, working on it becomes important.
Yeah, so it's something which is very important, Lata. I mean, that helps. That is something where what I'm saying is it has been easier in the past. At this point in time, what is happening is what I'm seeing in last 5 years, it has changed very, very quickly because you don't know to what aspect you focus on. So many technologies which are coming in and vanishing. So by the time you decide I will specialize on it, by the time you remember, you see that it is being sort of becoming obsolete, and it's something which is being transformed to something new, and you would not know when you are basically specializing on it. So you have to be very, very clearly looking at it, what you should be focusing, number one. Secondly, also having an idea about multiple different technology at the same time. For example,
Yeah.
what is so in technology perspective, if I say, and it might apply to all the professions, I use the term of zoom in and zoom out. So zoom in means you go in the deep when it is required. Zoom out means you have a broader perspective when you need to look at that, what you need to go in deep, right? So you must have a broader perspective, full knowledge of your across what is happening. In multiple technology, you should have a fair amount of understanding. And then you decide, okay, I want to go deep into that. Most likely you will not go wrong if you are spending your time and energy going and specializing in that, right?
So I think that's a great point of zoom in, zoom out, because that's what students need nowadays is looking at zooming in on the technology that they've chosen for now, but you zoom out to look at what's happening in the world around you, which technologies or which areas are going to pick up. So at any point of time, you have this thing coming in from your vision, right? That this is going to be the future. So when do you want to change your tracks as well becomes an important part.
Right. So a couple of points, important points, which I just want to mention when I, just for completing this, is that you must know that the skills which you are acquiring are really expiring very fast. Okay. So these are expiring faster than in the past time. That's very important to know it, as well as be very clear that you have to basically move into, you are doing engineering, and it happens as students feel that, okay, once I'm graduated, oh, I have done the education part, I'm done with that. No, so you have to make it in your practice, in your life style, that you are continuously reskilling yourself, and be very agile, that you have to very quickly keep on reskilling. That's a very important second part. The third one is when you are in industry and you are sort of looking at growing. So growth, you don't look at only from the ladder climbing perspective, but you should also look at diagonally and laterally, that how you can grow and keep on increasing your exposure in the industry. Finally, I would say that don't wait for change to happen. Be the change. That's being said. I'm forgetting who said that, but basically, for you is to train the change, right? If you're doing it, you certainly would be able to successful. Stay curious, keep reskilling, and I would say that you are the one who will be basically shaping up the industry tomorrow, what it would be. So
I think that's great, Sujit, because like I said, be comfortable in being uncomfortable.
yeah.
So I'm going to ask a few questions now from the students, and there's one question on CPU, GPU that one of you may want to take, but let's keep it brief so that we can cover, and we have a number of questions coming in. Have you managed to look at the question I had asked earlier? I put it on your chat somewhere, but in the meantime, while you look at it, it's in your WhatsApp, by the way. I put the one on GPU, CPU, if you guys want to look at it. How to make a successful career in business world, important tips, skills, how to improve our thinking strategies towards business. I'll take this one because this is business while you both look
You may
at
want to repeat that a little slowly, Lata. What's
Okay,
the
thank you. I was just telling Venkat and Sujit not to look at answering this, but look at the more technical ones. So, how to make successful career in business world, important tips, skills, how to improve our thinking strategies towards business and management. I think it's important whether you are in a tech career or a non-tech career is to look at ultimately what is the result you want from a business perspective, because technology is there to enhance the business and grow the business. And I think that's an important aspect, that if you want to grow your business, and you can move roles also, right? From tech roles, you can move to business roles, sales roles, any other role that you want to. There are multiple roles because you've got the basic technology understanding underneath it. But it's all about collaboration as well. It's about constantly relearning. It's about analytical thinking. And I think those are things that are very, very important as you get to the workplace, is the collaboration. And I think uh, the more said about it, it's less, because till you don't learn the art of collaborating with each other, even in your campus for your projects, doing a solo project is simpler than doing a project which has many more people. Then it teaches you communication skills. It teaches you skills about taking feedback. It also gives you skills of how to ensure that everyone is moving together. So those are skills that you really need to build when you're talking about business, because you're talking about moving together. Venkat, Sukhjit, were you able to look at the question? Otherwise, I'll ask you another one.
No, the CPU, GPU one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the brief answer to that is, yes, we had, most of the large language models or generative AI and agentic AI models are large language models, right? So they need GPUs only because of the fact, it's about the size of the data we are talking about, and we call it the ingestion rate and all of that, right? For example, in the telco industry, again, I'll take that as an example. You have, terabytes and terabytes of data flowing in, and if you want to make or if you want your model to generate, an answer, or, it could be through a chatbot or a self-service agent, that it has to, kind of analyze all this data in near real time, if not real time, and be able to, come back and give you an answer to that, then you would really need high computational power. That's why we are moving towards GPUs. But not all AI requires GPUs, right? Even within agentic AI today, we are actually looking at converting large language models to small language models as well, right? So, and then I spoke about the traditional AI ML techniques, which didn't even require, GPUs. So again, it comes down to, what you want to achieve through the use of AI. And, the larger the data, or the quantity of data underneath, and the better the performance and everything that you're looking for from a use case standpoint, accuracy and everything else, security and all of that, you definitely need higher computational power, and that's where you need GPUs. But that's extremely expensive, right? So not everybody can afford that, and it doesn't make sense for us to use it for all the use cases for all the industries. So we need to look at the return on investment, and we take that call.
I think there's a very important question that's come in here from Parveen Kumar, and I'm going to ask either of you, or I can respond to it, but I'll give it to you two first. How can AI automation be made accessible to rural areas or developing economies, not just big cities?
I would ask Subjit to go first.
Yeah, sure. So, see, it can be done, and there are multiple initiatives around the government, which has been in place from, if I go back, starting from 2000 onwards, with respect to the statewide area network, moving into the CBS systems related to the finance and banking, etc., and moving to the Gram Panchayat level fiber layout and all those things, which basically are getting connected and reaching to the end level now. And while it happens, there are a smart city initiative which you all are already aware of now. This in itself is bringing in a lot of intelligence, which is collecting the data. And when we have the data, there are new models which will be evolving, and which will basically create multiple use cases which will benefit not only the rural as well. I have some examples, but not of India, but outside, which basically has it. But I sort of,
I
say
can give
that
the India
that
example.
is a futuristic thing, but it is bound to happen.
I think let's break it down to simpler things, and what's already being done to what can be done is, if you really look at agriculture, right? You're looking at the crops, and you're looking at the type of crops that are there. And if I really look at benefiting the rural areas, it could be one is how do you get your banking approvals or financial approvals, insurance, bank, agriculture insurance approvals coming in. That's all automated at the back end. But you're also looking at the quality of crop and can you automate that using AI and automation, which could be through drones, which could be looking at the quality of the plant, the soil. All of it does use AI and automation at the back end. That could be one area. And even the cattle, I think I've seen even for cattle is how do you really look at which cattle, is the one that you actually look at from livestock management perspective also. I've seen that from both livestock when it's born to livestock, which you can be using for exporting as well, right? In terms of that is the quality of health that you use of the animal and the quantity also is done. There is by the way, a livestock project in the government of India. If you look at the BPL scheme, right, the below poverty line scheme, that's all automated to ensure that people are benefiting from the use of what the government is giving. These are the quick ones that come to my mind.
Yeah, just
but
to,
there
just
is
to add,
already, yeah.
if you don't mind, right? I know Sukhjit covered the infrastructure part, which is extremely important, right? That is the first thing. Are those infrastructure available in the rural areas? You spoke about the use cases, getting into farming and everything else. But from an academic standpoint as well, through corporate social responsibilities, through government initiatives, of these agile tinkering labs and things like that. So we are also setting up localized data centers. We are training, some of the, faculty. We are training the students across these tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, right, across India, so that, they understand and they take it to their own people, right? The use case that you said, right? Rather than somebody going from the city, visiting the rural areas and educating a farmer, their own people within the same local villages can educate the farmer or help the farmer get to loans faster and things like that.
Thank you. And I think even the courseware and education that's happening, and I was speaking to a company lately, which is looking at creating courses for people at different levels, not just students, but for farmers, for depending on village panchayats and others. That's also happening via the use of AI and automation. There's one more is how do I find a
wanted to
problem
pick
statement?
up one
Yeah, I
direct
know, thank
question.
you. Okay, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to pick up one
Yeah.
direct question, which is clearly asking which are the career options that are going to shrink and which are going to expand due to
Oh,
AI and
yes.
automation. Sukhjit and then Venkat, please.
Yeah, so I think,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so I think from the career option perspective, knowing that the AI is very, very sort of there now, right? So it's not going to take the job. It's going to basically enforce that the people who can use AI will replace the people who doesn't know it. And that is how it's not something which is happening first time, by the way. In earlier, when the computers came, and some of the people of my age would know that it happened earlier also. People said that when computers are coming, then we will lose the job. But it didn't happen. It's not going to happen even now. Only thing is that the people who know the AI will be replacing the people who doesn't know AI. And this is something which will go across all the verticals or all industries, because everywhere the AI is going to be utilized, because this is something which is bringing intelligence. And intelligence, if you have to look at, it's a machine intelligence, right? So you have to look at your career, building your career in the area where you can bring in the creativity, which is human creativity, and adding it with the machine intelligence. And that creates a value for the industry. Any career which is in this line, which includes the human creativity plus the intelligence of the machine, will be all, continue to grow. This will not change. So very, very,
Yeah, I think you have to be relevant to the market as it continues. Jobs will go out, but new jobs will be created. And I think that's the most important part is, will jobs move out? Yes, they will, right? They did, right? The horse carriage riders did disappear, but there were new cars that came in. So I think you have to look at what new job roles are being created in the industry. There's one quick question from a fresher who's asking, how do I start my career in AI? Was it that, or how do I start my AI learning?
And just to call out on the time, we are at 11:57.
Yeah, we have 3 minutes, but there are a lot of questions, and I think it would be good is if students can. And there's a lot on security and data collection as well. And Sukhjit, I know, and you, Venkat, it's up your lane. If you could send an email, maybe, and then maybe we can get them to respond or send something, because there are a lot of questions that I'm seeing.
Yeah, let's take that.
coming in. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So the first one is, how do I start my learning on AI?
Oh, are we going to answer them now, or you said you will?
Yeah. This one, how do I start? And then we have 2 minutes for rapid fire from Madhu,
Okay.
because she's
No,
very
I
keen to
think,
ask that.
yeah, I think it is like anything else, right? So where do you start? I would start from the basics, right? Again, AI is just a branch of everything else from a data science or, computer science standpoint. So, and Subjit did talk about zoom in, zoom out, which also, I look at it more as a T-shaped. So you need to, kind of know broader spectrum, but go deep into something that is really important. So if you pick up data science, then yes, I would again go back to my, word saying research based. Get into how networks work, get into how these models are built, how these models are trained, because at the end of the day, however it evolves from traditional AI to Gen AI to agentic AI, it all comes down to, how these things are, tuned or trained or built, etc. Right? So that knowledge will definitely help. So I would say start from the basics and then move up, right?
Madhu, there are questions on startups and data privacy. I know we're going to do one session around that at a later date, but I think if we can take the questions and send a mail later to them. There's one on what skills beyond technical skills. We've already covered that in terms of obviously collaborated work communication. But Madhu, over to you now. I know we're totally on the
I
hour,
think the
and both Venkat and Surjit have their day job.
topic is very large to do justice in this time window, but just to close it on a bit of a lighter tone, a quick one for Sukhjit. So time travel, and Sukhjit is back to being a 22-year-old at college, and obviously you've got all the technical skills covered. Why do you think you would get hired at campus today?
Oh, that's a tough one. Being a young again. I have to compete again and pass all the exams, and it's very scary. But anyway, so it will be really exciting seeing that how much opportunity we have, the exposure which we can get. I can start anything from the chat GPT, and the question which somebody was asking, that how do I build a career in AI. Ask the chat GPT, maybe it will tell you better than we can tell you in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So it's very simple, but certainly it requires a lot of hard work, and I believe in hard work and focus what you want to really do it. And I would love to be 22 years, by the way.
So thank you so much. And a quick one for you, Venkat. How does one maintain one's level of curiosity now that AI and ChatGPTs of the world can answer anything under the sun?
Yeah. So, and again, that's also not an easy one, right? But I would say it is just about, where you are. So today's generation, even though ChatGPT can, give you all the answers that you know, I would suggest that, curiosity is not something that comes from, okay, I want an answer to this, and I just go to ChatGPT and get it. But it is about, if we can go deeper, right, into how ChatGPT even got to that, right? I'm talking again very technically, right? From a technical standpoint, addressing the students that we have today and not going into the philosophical aspects of curiosity. I'm sure you guys are better doing that. So how does that even work, right? What kind of data? So, if I go put a question there, which we call prompts again, which model did ChatGPT use to get me this answer? What data did it use to get me to this answer, right? How did it analyze and train that data? So that way, there are so many things in that process that, kind of brings that curiosity, right? To know more, to understand more. And I would say that's how, you would, go about also, to answer the previous question also, where do you start?
Super. Thank you so much for that. And there's so much happening here, and I think we need one session devoted with each of you to really do justice to the kind of discussion we're trying to take over. To bring this to a close and stick to our timelines, I'm just picking up some of the stuff that you said very, very strongly. Venkat mentioned research, not really the default option in India. Cultural exposure, again, I think we are living in our silos and the world is just dissolving very, very fast. I heard a lot around skills expiring fast, growth in all directions. I think the mindset of vertical growth is just dead. Growth can happen in whichever direction. So I think the world of AI and automation is forcing us to become more human. Like somebody said, the race is to be more human and not beat the machines. We are not in competition. We are not going to win that race. So probably leverage and be more human. And with that, I hope we've added some value to the audience that came in. We will ask Trish to pick up the questions. And I know you both would have a very busy world, so you can put the load back on Lata on some of the answers. But we will want to go back to the universities and the students who've taken out time to revert on their questions. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madhu, and thank you, Venkat and Sukhjit. Wonderful interacting with you, and to the students who really put in very, very, I think, key questions. I love the interaction we had earlier with the college professors and their placement cell. But I think I love the type of questions that have come in. There are a lot of startup questions and data privacy questions. Do join us for our subsequent sessions, which is next month. Every month, third Friday is when we have this session. Do join us because some of these topics may get covered at a later date as well. And I just did want to call out the students to not forget to join us. So thank you so much and have a nice weekend.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.